want you to have the best Halloween Horror Nights this year.
Hey everyone, Ben and Ob here, and today we are preparing you for all things Halloween Horror Nights 2023.
It's coming up quick.
It is coming here so quick, and you know, sometimes you go to an event, you have a good time, but afterwards you look at yourself and talk to your friends and you're like, I wish we would have known, fill in the blank. Well, today we are here to help make sure that you don't feel like that afterwards.
So we're gonna offer 5 pieces of advice that we wish we would have known prior to our first Halloween Horror Nights.
And it's okay if this isn't your first trip. Stick with us here because I'm sure you're gonna find some key pieces that will be applicable to this year's event as well, just to make sure it is the best HHN season ever.
So without further ado, let's hop into multi-night tickets. If you've watched our 5 tips on how to maximize your Halloween Horror Nights, you know that we stress the importance of multi-night tickets, and multi-night tickets have finally been announced for 2023.
You don't know how excited we were when the multi-night tickets were announced. I immediately made sure Ben got online and got them purchased.
And the reasoning you would consider multi-night tickets really comes down to price. Depending on the night, you're looking anywhere between $90 to well over $100 for a single night ticket.
Yep.
So if you're considering going to Halloween Horror Nights multiple times or multiple months, highly consider a multi-night ticket. Now there's a few details that are new this year, as well as new pricings and things like that are new to Halloween Horror Nights 2023 multi-night tickets. The first change that Universal made to the multi-night tickets this year is that you have to select your start date for the multi-night tickets.
All of them?
All of them.
Wow.
Now, this doesn't make a ton of sense to me because you have to go either that night or later than the selected date. So why would you not select the first available date that your pass is good for? It doesn't make sense to me. I don't quite understand it, but I don't make the rules. Additionally, some of the major changes that you'll see is price. Inevitably, prices always seem to go up year on year. You're gonna see a slight increase for all the multi-night tickets this year when compared to last year.
The very first multi-night ticket to talk about is the Rush of Fear ticket. Now, the Rush of Fear ticket is good for almost all of September.
Almost.
The multi-night Rush of Fear ticket is good until September 24th, which means it doesn't cover the very final days of September when HHN is going. So you'll be able to go most of the month of September, but don't get your hopes up for that last weekend date because you will not have access during that time with the Rush of Fear tickets.
The next multi-night ticket to consider is the Frequent Fear Pass. Not only will you have access to Halloween Horror Nights the first weekend of the event, you'll have access to Halloween Horror Nights Sunday through Thursday in both September and October.
The next tier of multi-night tickets is the Frequent Fear Plus, which gives you access to Halloween Horror Nights Sunday through Friday, plus you have access the very first weekend and the very last weekend of Halloween Horror Nights season.
Which leaves me with probably the most difficult multi-night ticket of them all, which is the Ultimate Frequent Fear Pass. This pass is good for every single night of the event.
I feel like I would be exhausted if I went every single night.
Yeah, I don't know how Unfriendly Hero and Aloha do it.
Yeah. Now, okay, quick question. When the multi-night tickets dropped, I immediately got on the phone with you and said we need to get our tickets. Which ones did we get?
So we got the Rush of Fear Pass because our plan is to go opening weekend and through the first week of the event. We're very excited to experience opening weekend and opening day more specifically. So if you're gonna be at Universal that first week, so September 1st through the 9th, you'll find us, particularly night 1, in the Stay and Scream to watch the opening ceremonies.
If you have questions about these multi-night tickets, not only are we available to talk about it, we'll also go through and we'll drop a link to all of the ticket options in the description, so that way you can review and see which ticketing option for the multi-night tickets works best for you. Now that we've covered our multi-night tickets, which is probably one of the most confusing pieces of Halloween Horror Nights, once you get that done, you're set. Things are gonna be good. I want to promise.
But they could be better.
Yeah, but they could be better, right? The next thing we should talk about is that we, in our prior video, giving you tips about HHN, talked about stay and screams. But I'll add a little bit here that not all stay and screams are created equal.
Stay and screams differ from one another because of the houses they let onto, and they also let out at different times. Last year, the New York stay and scream area was the first stay and scream area to let you into houses. We were able to get 3 houses done even prior to some of the other stay and scream areas like Central Park, which let out roughly around 6 p.m.
Now, we don't know for certain every single stay and scream area that's been designated this year, but just reflecting on what they've done in past years, we expect there to be a stay and scream in the New York around Finnegan's space, one up at the Today Cafe for the opening ceremonies, one around Central Park / Simpsons, and possibly another over by the Richterberger area, San Francisco. More information. It can help you determine which stay and scream is going to work best for you and what you would like to get out of it. Now, if you are really prone to being out in the hot sun and the heat of Florida in early September is just not for you, the New York section might not be the best unless you can get into Finnegan's.
Which is going to get exceptionally busy.
It will. A lot of these stay and scream areas, you are going to be outside, it is going to be warm, and depending on the house you want to see, that might determine where you should be located. It doesn't really make sense if you want to get into the Chucky house to be up at the very front opening ceremonies watching whatever it is that Universal has up their sleeve. Determine what you want to get out of your stay and scream, what you want to do during that hour before they open things up, and what houses you want to see, and that will get you a better experience getting your night off on the right foot. If you're going multiple nights, maybe mix it up.
See which one you like the most.
See which one you like the most.
Our next tip comes when you actually get out of that stay and scream area and you start going through houses. And that's save your judgment until you go through the house multiple times, because you might have a run where you get done with the house and you might think, man, that house kind of stunk.
It happens sometimes.
You hit shift change and cast member changeover. Sometimes because scare actors have to scare from multiple angles, you just might be off a little bit on the timing. And inevitably that happens. So save some of your initial judgment for going through that house multiple times until you can get a good experience through the house.
Well, and I would also add to that, not only may you miss a scare or there's a cast change, but also the second, third, fourth, 10th, however many times you go through the house, having multiple runs through a house really helps you take everything in. They have a behind the screams tour, which is really awesome and phenomenal. Not everyone's able to go and do that and pay extra for it. For those who can't or don't have the time within their visit to do so, going through the houses will help allow you that time to just take in all of the effort that has been put into this entire work of art. Not only from the makeup and costume design on the scare actors, but then also the puppets, the decor, the details that Universal Creatives put into their house. It is absolutely, is there a bigger word than phenomenal?
Yeah.
Because it's just amazing.
And there are some strong IPs coming, so it brings us to our next tip, which is be prepared to wait in line and battle some crowds.
There's gonna be lines?
There's gonna be a lot of lines. You're talking waiting multiple hours to go through a house if you don't have express passes. You're talking about waiting for food. You're talking about waiting for the shows to start.
Typically, there aren't lines at bathrooms. That is one win.
Halloween Horror Nights is just really going to be defined by battling crowds and waiting in line.
I still remember the shock that I had at our first HHN with the amount of people in lines, even just getting food. There are a lot of people, and I think this year in particular, it's going to absolutely blow up. I would recommend for waiting in line for houses to bring an additional battery to charge your phone on and download a few games ahead of time. Heads Up is a big game, really great to play while you're in line. Or if you forget, your phone dies, you can stick with the good old rock, paper, scissors. Like I watched a family play for about 90 minutes last year.
So during those busy times, those more popular houses are probably going to be pushing 3 hours. And I would say on most average nights, like you're looking at waiting for 60 minutes plus if you're in that standby queue.
Do you have any tips to help people get through the lines faster or experience Halloween Horror Nights better?
So I think the biggest thing when waiting in line is something that we definitely covered in our last video, but that's bring comfy shoes, dress for the weather, bring an umbrella if it's raining or a poncho or something along those lines, because last thing you want is to be waiting in line and being miserable.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You're gonna wait inevitably. Why be any more miserable while you're waiting?
If you have the ability to purchase Express Pass, you don't have to buy it for every night, but having it for a night or two is very nice to have.
But be careful with buying a single night of Express Pass because you're spoiling yourself and you'll want it every night.
Yeah, that's true. Once you have Express Pass at HHN, you will not want to go back. Or an alternative option is you can do an RIP tour, which unlike Express Pass, which you're still waiting in line, an RIP tour is going to jump you to the front of the line to get right into those houses. It does reflect the cost of being able to jump ahead of everybody else, but if you're looking to go to HHN and you only have one night and you want to do every single house, the RIP tour is going to make that happen for you.
Our next tip kind of goes hand in hand with waiting in line, but that's some planning and crowd management.
Tackle everyone.
Be faster than the man next to you.
Elbows.
We're kidding. Don't do that.
HHN's gonna be crowded. With lines come lots of people, or with lots of people come lots of lines.
With people comes lots of lines.
But either way, it's going to be crowded, and you're gonna be walking through crowds. And it's not just crowds, but like scared and a bit drunk crowds.
We wouldn't say alcohol is encouraged at HHN, but it is not discouraged either.
Yeah. So mentally prepare if you're somebody like me that's not a big fan of lots and lots of people. Start mentally preparing today because you're about to be around lots and lots of people.
There's certain plans that we would highly recommend in order to beat these crowds, and one is our classic example, which we have in almost every video that we put out, which is get there early. Number 2 would also be eat early or eat off peak meal times, so
Let's
before
talk about
midnight.
That. Yeah. Okay. So before Stay and Scream even starts, Ben and I will probably grab food. So that way we can make sure we're in the parks, we're at our Stay and Scream, and we've had something to tide us over during the time that we're in Stay and Scream. We've found it's a little bit easier not to do the reservations, but to just grab something quick, easy, maybe a crepe, maybe a burger, like something. Go to your Stay and Scream, and then, enjoy some snacks and things throughout the evening.
Eat before that sort of midnight period too, just because as the crowds start to funnel in, obviously you're gonna wait longer for food. Now, the technique that we have found works for navigating houses during Halloween Horror Nights is to try and knock out some of those houses in the front of the park if you're in Stay and Scream, or some of those more popular houses early in the night or very, very late in the night.
The crowds definitely ebb and flow the way the parks do, where as those gates open, you're about to get a big flood of people. They'll come through, times will go up for house waits, and then eventually they'll drop back down, and then they'll come back up again as a new flood of people for once it's dark out, there's a new flood of people that come through. But we for sure recommend, hit up the big houses. Stranger Things, The Last of Us, even Chucky, those major IPs are really going to end up having some high wait times once the gates open. And so being able to get those done first or before that next wave of people come in when it's dark will be key. Another pro tip with this is to use the Universal mobile app to be able to check out wait times, because you will see as one house over on this side of the park's wait time creeps up, some other houses on the other side of the park might be dropping down. So you can keep an eye on that in the mobile app, and as you see those wait times dropping, you can run over there, jump in line, and bust that house out.
And if you really get tired of the crowds, you can always hop into Diagon Alley, which is pretty darn quiet during Halloween Horror Nights.
And this year you can play with the Death Eaters.
Or hop on a ride. Usually Transformers is open, Rip Ride's definitely open. Yeah. I'm pretty sure MIB's open.
I think it is. I think last year it had some trouble while we were playing.
But hop on a ride if you really need a break from those crowds and need to decompress from Halloween Horror Nights.
For sure.
So we've covered 5 pieces of advice that we wish we would have known prior to our first Halloween Horror Nights. We hope that you can apply them to your trip so that you can have the best Halloween Horror Nights that you can possibly have.
If you're gonna be there the first week of this HHN season, let us know in the comments, because we'd love to meet up with you and say hi.
If you got anything out of this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, feel free to hop on our Patreon. We'd love to see you as part of our Patreon family. Stick around for more Universal content. Thanks for watching.
Bye.